Hello everybody, welcome. On this video I'm going to talk about the basic structure of a macro. So if you please go into a developers tab. If you don't have it, please watch my video how to open your developers tab in your Excel. Click on record a macro, leave auto defaults, and just write your name here. Your name. And this is it. Now I'm going to stop this macro over here. I'm going to click on my Visual Basic and I want to know where my macro is at. Okay? Macros are held in modules, so you need to click on module folder to see what you have recorded. If you don't have, if you are writing a macro for the first time, some people attempt to click on plan 1, click on sheet 1 and start writing their macros here. Macros are not supposed to be written on sheets, because when you run macros from a sheet that access other sheets or other workbooks, it can cause errors. So you usually go to insert module, or from here insert module, and then you can start writing your macro. Okay, let's take a look at the basic structure of a macro. All macros start with a sub, that means subroutine, then their names. Macros cannot start with numbers and cannot have spaces. Okay, and after this we have parentheses. Parentheses are the variables that this macros needs to start running. So if I have an empty parenthesis, that means it doesn't need anything to start running. So this macro could start my project, for example, because it doesn't need any information to start. Okay. When we record a macro, we have some lines of comments here that has the shortcuts, the name of the macro, the type of the structure that it is, and we have some spaces and then our code in black. Okay, all these comments here can be erased, and I can make blank lines. It doesn't matter, because all the blank lines that I make, my macro, my VBA won't read those blank lines when it's running. So I'm going to erase this, and then I'm going to make another comment. To make a comment, I make a single quote. Notice that it's still in black. Then I make my comment, and when I press enter, it turns green. So it became a comment. Okay? And comments are very helpful for me to take a look at my macros a few months from now, or maybe another programmer to take a look and see what's going on, or my students to see what I'm doing. Okay? And in black, I have the codes that are recorded. You notice that he left some space here before he goes. This is very used in programming. It's just to make the code more cleaner. So when I come to see this, it's easier to see what's going on. So we programmers like to do this. We like to press tab to make a space here, just to know what's inside of what. So when we record a macro, he already made an indentation for us. He already was making like this, because he wants to tell you that this code here belongs to the macro. So it's very useful to do this, and it gets your macro very organized. So when you start working with macros, I'm going to ask you to start doing this too, because it's going to save you a lot of time in the future. Okay? If you click by accident here, you're making a breakpoint, and this is used to stop the execution of a macro, to see what's going on in that stage, to perform tasks and find errors. So if you click this by mistake, just click back to release this. Okay, and the macro also ends with the end set. So if I erase my name here and I run this step by step, if you want to know how to run this step by step, you can watch my other videos. If I run this step by step, there you go. I just wrote my macro, just executed my macro, and the macro is ready to go. Okay? I cannot have a variable to store something with the same name of my macro. Macro is equal to true. I can't do this, because when I run this, I get an error. So I cannot have a variable that has the same name of my macro. Okay, let me do another example for you. Now we're going to build a macro, not from recording, but we're gonna build a macro from scratch. So I'm gonna do this subtest, and once I do this subtest, I can press enter, and it already makes the parentheses for me and the end sub. And from here, I can do the following. I can make, I'm gonna make this macro x, I'm gonna make a variable called x is equal to 5, and then I'm gonna call macro 1, and I'm gonna set pass x to macro 1. That's what I'm saying. Say execute macro 1 and pass this value to macro 1. And in macro 1, I'm gonna write a variable, I'm gonna say it's some variable. Okay, so now I cannot start this macro from scratch, and here I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna say write my name, and then I'm gonna say on range h2 retrieve value. I'm gonna say range h2 is equal to some variable. Okay, so I'm just, and I don't need this code here because this code was generated when I press enter. I click on A1, I wrote my name and I press enter. So this code was generated there. I can erase this code. Okay, there you go. So I have, I'm gonna say, this is writing my name on A1, retrieving a value to A2. Okay, now I cannot start this macro now from scratch because this macro needs a variable. So I can't just press play on this macro. It won't work because these macros need to have something to work. So this is not an empty parenthesis anymore. But the macro here, down here, test, this macro can start my project because this macro is an empty parenthesis. It means that it needs no parameter to start. So let's do it. I'm gonna make x equal to 5, and then I'm gonna call the macro above, passing x to it. And when I do this, some variable just got the x value, and then I can run this. I can click on A1 and write my name, and then I can say A2 receives some variable which is 5. And when I'm finished with this, I call back to the first macro because I also need to finish this one too. And this is it. So I bet some of you didn't know about this. Okay, another thing. In Excel we have functions. For example, I can make my Excel is in Portuguese, so I'm gonna make a sum, but I'm gonna write soma because it's the sum for Portuguese. And I can make what's the sum for 4 and 6 and 9. And also my separators are dots and comma, okay? So the sum for it is 19. But I can make something very cool in macros for Excel like this. I can make a function, and I'm gonna say my media, my average is better, my average, and from here I'm gonna do something like this. I'm gonna say this average is going to receive A, B, and C, okay? And I'm going to say my average, the name of my function, is equal to A plus B plus C divided by 3. So I'm making an average of 3 numbers. And notice that now I have a variable that has the same name as my function, okay? I could not do this in macros, but in functions I can do. Now I'll go back to my Excel and I'm going to do the following. My average, let's say 3, 9, and 13. And something's wrong here because my separator, you should use this separator like this. But I'm in Excel in Portuguese, I should use this separator. I'm sorry about this. Now I got the average of 8-333. So I just made my own function. I know Excel has a lot of functions and probably has all the functions that you're gonna need, but you need to make your own functions, your custom function. You can make a function like this, okay? So this is it. This is the video for today. Thank you so much for watching it. Be sure to subscribe my channel on YouTube and be a part of my site learnmacrosnow.com because I am going to teach you how to work with macros. Thank you. See you next video.